The world was a crucible of orange rust and aching silence. The desert mod had stripped the overworld bare, leaving Alara stranded on endless, ochre dunes where the sun was a constant, unforgiving enemy. Survival was measured not in days, but in milliliters of purified water and degrees of cooling shade. Yet, stretching through this desolate expanse, a single, magnificent artery ran, the track. Forged from an ancient, obsidian dark metal, it was the only constant, the only vector pointing toward a future. Alara's mobile sanctuary, the Iron Nomad, started as a pitiful thing. A basic locomotive, sputtering coal smoke she could ill afford, pulling a single reinforced wooden car, the starter box, holding a meager supply of initial tools, a single dusty bed, and 4 buckets of precious, hoarded water. Her first week was a desperate scramble. Staying still meant imminent death by dehydration or, worse, discovery by the larger denizens of this arid realm. The larger beasts mod ensured anything that moved was either massive, terrifying, or both. The sun beat down, turning the metal floor into a griddle. Alara knew the Iron Nomad needed immediate, critical evolution if she was to survive the long haul. The thirst engine, the first necessity was water, and the desert offered none. Alara found a system that might work: atmospheric condensation. It required immense amounts of metal and glass. She spent 3 grueling days hunting for iron seams exposed by the relentless wind erosion, narrowly escaping a swarm of airborne vultures the size of small cars. She melted down heaps of sand in her furnace, powered by scarce wood, and forged the intricate coils and cooling fins necessary for the condenser car. When the car was finally bolted to the track, a dark, cylindrical monstrosity packed with piping, it became the heart of her operation. Solar stills on the rooftop slowly began to capture the humidity that miraculously rose as night fell, trickling purified drops into the main tank. It was slow, barely enough to sustain her, but it was reliable. The Iron Nomad had taken its first step toward self-sufficiency. It was during the shakedown run of the condenser car that the first true test of the larger beasts arrived. The train was traversing a canyon rift when the sand beneath the rails erupted. It was a sand ripper, a segmented, armored creature resembling a colossal millipede, its mandibles capable of shearing through bedrock. It was drawn to the rhythm and vibration of the steam engine. Alara hurled a stack of weak TNT from the back porch of the starter box, hoping to deter it. The explosion merely annoyed the beast. It lunged, its shadow momentarily swallowing the locomotive. Then, from the canyon lip above, a shadow far larger than the ripper fell. The guardians of the rails. The creature that landed on the ripper's carapace was breathtaking. A feline, yes, but scaled to the desert's requirements. Taller than the train's locomotive, built like sculpted muscle under thick, dusty fur striped like sandstone, it possessed 6 paws tipped with obsidian claws. It was a dune stalker. The ensuing fight was a blur of tearing metal and throaty roars. The ripper, though armored, was outmatched by the sheer weight and aggression of the stalker. The feline eventually drove its fangs deep into the ripper's softer underbelly, killing it with a sickening crunch. Alara, heart hammering, watched the dune stalker drag the massive corpse into the shade. She noticed its flank was badly cut, leaking dark, thick blood. Her instincts, the basic Minecraft impulse to heal and tame, overrode her fear. She cautiously approached, offering a block of cooked mutton she had saved for dinner, holding a potent healing potion in her offhand. The stalker, immense and terrifying, paused its meal. Its golden eyes, usually sharp with primal hostility, narrowed as it studied the tiny human. It accepted the mutton, devouring it in one bite. Alara knelt, ignoring the scorching sand, and without waiting for permission, poured the potion directly onto the gaping wound. The stalker, which she later named Kale, meaning stronghold, in a forgotten tongue, responded with a low, rumbling vibration that shook the ground, not a growl of anger, but something akin to satisfied acceptance. Kale did not leave. He established himself on the observation deck of the starter box, his massive weight causing the springs to groan in protest. He seemed to understand that the moving metal structure offered something unique: safety from the worst predators and a moving water source. With Kale as her massive, 6-legged bodyguard, Alara committed to the self-sufficiency build. The fortification of the Nomad. The next modules were dedicated to power and comfort. The steam engine was too resource-intensive. The desert offered one thing in abundance: sunlight. Upgrade 2. The solar array car. Built low to the ground for stability, this car was blanketed in black, highly conductive quartz panels mined from dangerous undersand tunnels. It produced silent, constant energy, powering pumps, lights, and, crucially, a ventilation unit in the sleeping area. Upgrade 3. The fungus farm and processing car. Food was the final puzzle piece. Hydroponics was too sensitive to the desert heat, but fungus thrived in cool, dark dampness. Using the perpetual water supply from the condenser car, Alara inoculated nutrient blocks with fast-growing, edible mycelium strains. This car became a self-regulating, cool, dark zone, ensuring a calorie surplus. Upgrade 4. The Sentinel car and sleeping car. The Sentinel car was a reinforced steel enclosure protecting the vital solar battery banks and hosting defensive cannon mounts for TNT delivery. Directly behind it, the sleeping car was a marvel of insulation, triple-layer wool walls backed by hardened obsidian plating. It was completely dark, cool, and silent, the first truly comfortable space Alara had known in months. The Iron Nomad was now a sleek, 15-car Leviathan, a black and silver snake gliding through the rust-colored wastes. It had its rhythm, the soft hum of the solar inverters, the drip-drip of water, the gentle crunch of the wheels on the iron rails. And Kale had attracted company. Near a rare, dead oasis, they encountered Celine. She was smaller, leaner, with a coat the color of white bone, and she was an excellent hunter, providing Alara with high-quality hides and rare mob components. Celine was cautious, intelligent, and fiercely loyal to Kale. She adopted the stern of the train as her perch, often resting her massive head against the cold metal of the Sentinel car, her presence a silent, lethal warning to anything approaching the tracks. Alara was no longer alone, she commanded a mobile fortress guarded by 2 mountainous felines of the desert. The Basalt Goliath. The relative peace shattered 3 weeks later, deep in the territory known only as the Cinder Wastes. The air shimmered with oppressive heat, and the rails began to vibrate with unnatural force, a deep bass thrumming that threatened to shatter the glass panels. Kale and Celine were instantly alert, their usual lazy stretches replaced by low, reverberating cries of warning. Too powerful, Alara muttered, checking the emergency reserves. Switch to full solar bypass, prime the defensive turrets. The source of the vibration appeared on the horizon, moving slowly, unstoppable. It was a Basalt Goliath, a creature of the larger beast's mod dedicated purely to destruction. It looked like a walking mountain range, roughly humanoid, forged from igneous rock and cooled lava, perhaps 50 blocks high. Its skin was armor, its movement a geologic event. It ignored almost everything, except large, unnatural structures. The Iron Nomad was a violation of the desert's rules. The Goliath's massive fist struck the ground 30 blocks ahead, sending a shockwave that derailed the very track it hit, ripping the iron rails apart. We stop here, Alara yelled into the wind. Kale, Celine, prepare. The train screeched to a halt just shy of the rupture. Alara vaulted onto the Sentinel car, loading the custom dual dispenser turret with high-impact TNT charges, aimed for the Goliath's softer central joints. The Goliath advanced, its stone face blank and inexorable. Kale launched first. With a mighty spring, the 6-legged beast ascended the Goliath's leg, scrambling like a massive, agile spider. He focused his attack on a seam of weaker, fractured basalt near the knee joint, tearing at it with all his might. The noise of tearing stone was deafening. Celine ran a flanking maneuver, darting around the Goliath's opposite side, using her speed and bone-white camouflage. She focused on distracting the creature, nipping at its ankles, forcing the Goliath to momentarily shift its staggering weight. The Goliath roared, a sound like tectonic plates grinding, and reached down to swat at the irritating felines. This was Alara's chance. She sighted the turret carefully. Fire. 3 payloads of TNT flew true, guided by the targeting mechanism she had spent weeks perfecting. They detonated directly against the damaged basalt seam where Kale was clinging. The explosion wasn't enough to kill the Goliath, but it staggered it violently. The impact threw Kale clear, sending him tumbling onto the sand, stunned. The Goliath, now enraged, abandoned the smaller pests and stared at the source of the blast, the metallic serpent on the tracks. It began to charge, aiming to crush the entire train line in one monumental stomp. Celine. Distraction. Kale, get back here. Celine did not hesitate. She placed herself directly in the massive creature's path, rearing up onto her hind legs, expanding her size, and unleashing a challenging roar that sounded impossibly large for her frame. The Goliath paused, its primal programming confused by this creature that seemed to demand attention. That crucial 4-second delay was all Alara needed. She had one last stack of reinforced explosive rockets, experimental weapons fueled by rare nether materials. She aimed high, targeting the visible cooling vent running down the back of the Goliath's neck. The rockets hit in quick succession. The explosion was colossal, louder than anything in the desert, rattling the foundation of the world. The vent, the creature's weak point, was breached. Lava-hot energy erupted from the fissure, and the Basalt Goliath began to crumble from within. It took 5 agonizing minutes, but the towering creature slowly disintegrated into a massive pile of rubble, dust, and raw, cooled obsidian blocks, the spoils of a terrifying victory. The mobile civilization. Silence settled back over the cinder wastes, broken only by the gentle hum of the Iron Nomad's solar inverters and Alara's heavy breathing. She rushed to Kale and Celine, finding them bruised and exhausted but fundamentally intact. She treated their cuts with potions, offering them the most prized delicacy from the fungus farm, large, meaty mushroom steaks. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the wreckage in shades of violet and gold, Alara stood on the observation car. She looked out over the trackless waste, then back at the fully assembled train. It was magnificent. The condenser car was diligently pulling water from the cooling evening air. The solar array glowed softly, charging the enormous battery banks. The fungus farm was quiet, productive, and cool. And guarding it all were Kale and Celine, two immovable mountain lions who chose the rhythm of the rails over the loneliness of the sand. The Iron Nomad was no longer just a vehicle, it was a mobile civilization, a self-sustaining ecosystem dedicated to defying the hostile logic of the modded world. Alara knew the tracks stretched on endlessly, and the desert held untold numbers of larger, stranger beasts. But she was ready. She had water, power, food, and two colossal, warm-blooded defenders at her side. She initiated the engine sequence. The electric motors transitioned from static charging to forward drive. With a smooth, whispering motion, the Iron Nomad moved past the wreckage and continued its eternal journey deeper into the vast, dangerous heart of the iron-clad desert. The desert was immense, but her world was now on rails, and it was growing stronger with every mile.